alive. I was so very, very worried.
Well, if it ain't my little buddy Benny.
Oh, for heaven's sake, girl, it wasn't that good of a kiss anyway.
Yes, spring cleaning. Nice shot.
You heard it up top. Get ready to walk like an Egyptian because we are diving into a special one, deep diving down in the dust, in the desert, because we're talking The Mummy, 1999's. Here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Colin, Benny Colin.
Gotcha. I'll be Mike Hotep.
And this is Jake O'Connell.
Jake O'Connell. I like that.
Wow.
I'm surprised Colin, you
Jake
could have done
O'Connell.
Rick O'Collin.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
Evie, there's something, Jonathan, all our favorite characters.
Yeah. You know, the mummy.
Americans. Yes.
Yes.
The
yes,
Mummy.
yes.
Happy holidays, normies. It's December months. We decided to give ourselves a present. We know this doesn't sound very on theme, but we were kind of thinking about mummies off pod, and we were coming up with episode ideas. And we said, you know what? Let's talk The Mummy. And here's what I was shocked by. You guys said that. I kind of laughed, and I said, in my mind, no, we've done The Mummy. And then I looked in our episodes. I was like, we've never talked The Mummy. And I got very upset and then happy that we're doing this episode.
That is surprising. You know, it's the kind of movie that you think we would have talked about already, but
Definitely
happy to do it today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, anecdotally, we off pod we did do a mummy themed escape room, and that kind of planted the seed of like, wait a minute, just do The Mummy, yeah. And we escaped,
right.
obviously,
That's right.
no curse.
We did. Supposedly.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Now
I
Something
watched
using us for our eyes and tongues, Mike. You did say that, right, though?
Right. This is the last episode that we'll be able to speak through. Yeah.
I watched the Tom Cruise Mummy, so I hope that's what you guys watched as well. 2017.
I did
No,
the Boris
coincidentally,
Karloff
I did
one.
actually watch that for the first time a few weeks ago, strangely enough. And that's directed by, of course, my sworn enemy, Alex Kurtzman, head of Star
Enemy
Trek.
of Star Trek, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Frequently mentioned on this podcast. Now, Jacob, does us discussing this film, and I guess film series as well, preclude us from ever doing our long form series where I would want us to talk about the Tom Cruise Mummy as well?
Well, yeah, we could do the
Interesting.
sequels to. We could start with The Mummy Returns, and then, or we could do the
Tomb
Boris
of the
Karloff
Dragon
Mummy.
Emperor.
Yeah.
Are these all? That's true. Are these all films that you guys have seen? Mike, are you familiar with
good
the
question.
old Universal ones? And have you seen all these recent Brendan Fraser ones?
Yeah, so I've never seen really any of the Universal classic monster movies all the way through. I've seen the snippets, you know, I know about Boris Karloff, but I've never actually seen that one. I've seen all three of these, you know, in theaters as they were coming out. And I did not see the Tom Cruise Dark Universe, even though Star Trek Connection again with the actress who played the Mummy.
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz.
Sophia Boutella.
Yes,
in
Sophia
the new
Boutella,
one.
of course.
Well, I wonder if that's why, if Alex Kurtzman as the director was like, I worked with this actress before. Maybe that's why they brought her.
She doesn't mind being in
But,
extensive makeup. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly,
But how
I
about
watched
you?
that a couple weeks ago. Didn't hate that movie as much
Interesting
as I thought I would.
take.
It's not good, but it was watchable enough to me, and I was actually like intrigued by the Dark Universe, and I was like, man, I wish there were more Dark
Oh
Universe.
no.
movies.
Be
I liked
careful what you
Russell
wish
Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like,
Oh, right.
it was fun. It was fun.
for.
But as for these Mummy movies, I've seen this and Mummy Returns a bunch of times. I've never seen the Dragon Empire or the Tomb. What is it
Emperor.
called? The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Tomb of the Dragon
Yes.
Emperor with Jet Li, really?
I've never seen that one. No, so maybe that we should do a series so I can watch that.
Yeah,
I would love
could be
that.
interesting. Yeah, I just yeah, that would be good. I don't want to throw any of those opinions out now. Colin, how about you? You seen all these?
I'll even throw it back to, my dad was such a old monster movie fan that, yes, we have seen the Boris Karloff one. Sci-Fi Channel would play it enough that I guess kind of closer to like you saying snippets, Mike, he would pull us over and be like, hey, this is important. Or like take a look at this scene or whatever. I'm sure you guys know the story from that was Boris Karloff played Frankenstein's monster. And they were like, wow, what a performance. He was like, hey, I know you guys want me to do more of these and like more of these like monster movies. I kind of want to play what I played in like theater and stuff, like a sex symbol. I want to be like a super hot dude. So those mummy movies are like, he's a mummy for like 2 minutes, then immediately reforms into like a sexy guy who wears a fez and like, chases after you, right? So very different than these films.
Well, kind of like this because he turns into a normal guy eventually.
And they're romantic, I would say.
Right.
There's sort of these weird, he's like a Lothario figure. He does, of course, play Imhotep, who we'll be talking about quite a bit later.
Yeah.
I was surprised to learn this actually because I didn't know this, but Imhotep's not based on like a real historical person. That's just the name of the Boris Karloff character in the original. So they just went with that.
Huh.
And so I always thought it was like based on history somehow, but it's not.
Well, that's interesting because I didn't know that either. But, I did a year or so ago, I mentioned I went to Houston and they had a King Tut exhibit, I saw
That's right.
Khonshu, so I'm also Moon Knight. We remember this, so I'm pretty much an expert.
The moon god Khonshu, Mike.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a bird guy. So yeah, a lot of my Egyptian knowledge. I'm the Rachel Weisz of us, I guess. Not really.
That's true.
Nice.
Well, your split personality is the Rachel Weisz of us.
Correct.
But I'll just say about the Brendan Fraser films to finish them up. I felt like I was a big fan of Brendan Fraser because, of course, obviously, his role as George of the Jungle, which was like a kid's movie perfectly aimed at me at the time.
Yes.
But I kind of really felt like almost like a Robin Williams doing Jumanji, where this felt like a jump where I'm like, oh, that's the lovable person I love, kind of in a movie that's too scary for me. So I did not see The Mummy in theaters in 1999, rented it, loved it immediately, and then saw the subsequent films in theaters as well. And I remember being extremely let down and riding my bike back from the theater with my brother for Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, where we both said, wow, that sucked. And like an early young kid being like, wow, movies are bad. So bummer.
I was sitting in the theater and like that's when it started to dawn on me, like maybe not all movies are good. It's like that. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah,
I think all movies are
we
good.
could get there. Yeah, they have valid.
I bet I would like it better now. I haven't watched it in probably a couple years.
I've only watched it that one time. Yeah, that would be good.
I just know they recast the Rachel Weisz role, but like it's the same character, which I kind of hate that. Like,
Maria Bello steps in, not even British.
Yeah, like why call her Evie? Just make her a new character. Don't just change.
But you want Evie to die in this universe? You want Rick O'Connell to be a widower?
Yeah, she's got a new job at a fancy museum across the country. It didn't work out. Right. Whatever. I think also because this is adventure-y, right? Uncharted vibes. I guess we'll talk about that when we get into it. But also, Victor Timely Enough, not the name, whatever. The birthday of Brendan Fraser is what we're working towards. Was the day before we're recording this, so that's also like good timing to do the Mummy. So happy birthday, Brendan! Is
this your guys' favorite Brendan Fraser role?
I say yes,
100%. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. I mean, well, other than The Whale, of course, my favorite movie, The Whale.
Well, the Oscar was. It was for the mummies. He just got snubbed,
That's right.
Right.
Big
I like
Whale
this.
fan.
I mean, like you said, it's Uncharted kind of vibes. It's Indiana Jones, like basically, right? He's playing
100%.
Indiana Jones type archetype. And I think he crushes it. And he was, he's a movie star, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, I have several interesting thoughts after watching this again after a couple of years. And it's like, it's going to be cool to talk about it. So I'm stoked that we are doing it. So should we pop the top in the sarcophagus and see what we got? Mum's the word, right? Mummy, it's the word. All right. Bad transition. Right. See you next time. Oh, geez.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we are talking about what I'm going to call an early blockbuster smash hit, the 1999 Stephen Sommers directed film, The Mummy. We said before it's a remake of the, I think, 1932 or something like that, original Universal picture film. Stephen Sommers probably most known for directing. Did you guys see that live action version of The Jungle Book? Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, not the Disney version, of course.
Yeah. That's right. I have seen that one. Yeah, fascinating. But yeah, the classic, the iconic, The Mummy, right? So, and what do we know about the development, more of this behind the scenes
Well, I was
stuff.
just going to say that after this, he made Van Helsing, so he really was into the
A
Universal
very
monster.
Mummy, yes-esque film, which has
Right.
Kevin J.
I wanted
O'Connor in
to-
him as well. He's
Yeah.
also in Deep Rising. Have you guys ever seen either of those films, Van Helsing, Deep Rising? Great
I've seen Van
movies,
Helsing.
great bad movies.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he's great at these like action adventure blockbuster type movies. I wanted to mention, I should have mentioned this in the intro, but just in the past, earlier in November, we were watching Spooktober movies, and I kept watching some spooky movies in November,
Mhm.
and I ended up watching, like I said, The Mummy 2017, and I
Right.
also watched The Wolfman starring Benicio del Toro.
That's right.
And I watched The Invitation, which is a Dracula movie. So I was like, I'm really covering all my Universal monster bases here and just doing all
Yeah.
the. And now I'm on this Mummy, so I just wanted to shout out monsters.
Nice. I'm just
The
glad to
dark
be talking about a
universe.
curse again after the Jew-awning that was going on. I just
That's
get
right.
another
The
curse
of
to
the
deal
Black
with.
Pearl.
Well,
geez,
now
so many
Mike,
curses. You're right.
yes, and
What's
that's
happening?
obviously the big blockbuster franchise we're on now. But Mike, you bringing up Ju-on and saying like,
Yeah.
like that was your horror thing we covered this Spooktober. Now, Jacob, you were watching a lot of stuff for Spooktober. You're watching
Yeah.
somebody in particular. Do you know the first person who was tasked with developing this reboot of The Mummy?
Yes. There was
what?
a bunch of people attached going far back as the 80s, right? And actually,
Huh.
George Romero, for a long time, was attached to this project.
No
both
kidding.
in the 80s, and I think he came back in like 94, and they were going to do it again. Is that who
Huh.
you were thinking
The one
of?
I was thinking in particular, tied to you, the guy that we've talked about every Spooktober with your choices this season, Clive Barker,
Clive Barker as
was
well, yes.
picked up to do
Whoa.
a draft of it. He turned it in, Mike, and he said he was not chosen because he made it too dark and sexual.
What?
Exactly
No
what you would
way.
expect from him. But yeah,
Well,
in
when
the
they have an
80s,
artifact in the desert that you need to open, I'm like, wait a second.
Well, he's a pretty good guy for the job if you think
Yep,
about it.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
was reading a little background about this, and George Romero was attached in '87. Ended up, the project was abandoned for a while. Then Clive Barker came on in 91.
Whoa.
Like you said, they said it was too dark and sexual.
Yes.
Exactly what you
Not
would
working,
expect.
not working. And
Right.
here's the thing. Steven Sommers comes in and he literally says, "What's that? Excuse me, what was everybody else's pitch? Morons. This needs to be Indiana Jones for the modern age." And the executives
Yes.
were like, that sounds like
Also-
a $1 billion idea. Let's
Mhm.
go with that.
Yeah.
And even before he signed on, so like I said, George Romero, Clive Barker, another director attached to it in the mid '90s, Joe Dante. So
Oh, sure.
Whoa,
Sure.
Gremlins.
Yeah.
Are you kidding
And
me?
that makes sense, Jacob, because if you think about it, Joe Dante leaves this where he's trying to make it like a pulpy action thing too, is kind of his take as well. And he goes, okay, well, I'll take that energy to The Phantom,
Small
if you guys have ever
Soldiers.
seen that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he writes The Phantom, which is a pulp action comic book movie,
right.
gets fired from that. And they use his script anyways. And he goes, wait, no, that was a parody movie. You guys shot that seriously? No.
Wow.
That was
that's
like in
incredible.
the wake of Tim Burton's Batman. They took the
Yes.
wrong lessons. Instead of being like, we
Yes.
need more comic book movies, they're like, we need more like Dick Tracy and the Phantom and
The Shadow.
the Shadow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, incredible.
Very strange decisions, but
Yes.
yeah, Steven Sommers. You know what? I think he does a good job here. It's a lot like I think the pirate movies. Like this is a
Yeah.
comic book movies taking over all of the blockbuster industry, and blockbuster, like we said it before, and I hate to keep harping on it. We said it in the Pirates episode, but like we used to make real movies, in this country.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Now we have Movie Factory.
Yeah.
Like some people try to get creative here, and I'm going to compare this to Pirates a little bit because of plot wise, and it has, like Colin was saying, the two dudes and a leading lady combo. We've got a goofy one and a more. It's like the template. This will evolve into Pirates eventually one day. Like this is starting something, right?
I was really thinking watching this time, Mike, going like, it's like they said Jonathan the drunk should be the lead, and then the two boring leads should be the romance. It's like they kind of flip it and then take the Rick O'Connell's fun energy and inject it into the drunk, and that's how you get Jack Sparrow. I was very much watching with that same lens.
Yeah. It's I just thought that was interesting to draw that line. And again, they're cursed objects. We're trying to reverse a curse. Like it was giving me big pirate memories. But
it's very similar, and it's a period piece. It's
Yes.
it's this big adventure, and it really sets you in the time period, and there's great atmosphere and that kind of thing. So
You do have to give it up auteur style, though. Gore Verbinski does not write those pirate movies. Steven Sommers wrote this film and writes the sequel. I believe he's the only credited writer on both the films. So that's pretty dope to me.
that is pretty cool.
and basically saying saying we need a Indiana Jones type movie. Like we've been saying that, we've got Uncharted, we've got Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which we didn't really like. But yeah, we used to have movies like The Mummy, which were, incredible. So,
and it is a good Indiana Jones of that time. And like, yeah, even when they tried to do Indiana Jones again or with Uncharted, not as good as The Mummy 1999 was. And it also does feel like a little bit of throwback pulp, like transatlantic accent movie, The Dames and stuff. Like it has that energy too with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
That's why I love that they made it a period piece, which is kind of like what the 2017, why maybe that one is not very good, because they're like, we're going to do it in modern day. We're going to have like Tom Cruise, like be this like, rogue with a heart of gold and stuff. And it's like, give me Brendan Fraser.
Yep, with a little bit of old Hollywood trope of the like, it happened one night. We get along, chemistry back and forth, and it's a little, because the original came out in 1932. So I think there's some of that old Hollywood energy. It's very in the much like, too.
It's like Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart could have been.
Very
That's
much
what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Mercurial.
And Brendan Fraser, like he's got that right mix of like action hero and comedy. Like his reactions in this are great. And I think that's what Harrison Ford does so well as Indiana Jones, his reactions to things. And I think Brendan Fraser has great reactions in this movie.
That's a good point.
Let's talk about him for a little bit. Like we said, it's his birthday, 55. Happy birthday, Brendan.
Happy birthday.
He did George of the Jungle right before this. It's why he is so cut. He's like out of this world in great shape, which he obviously is in that Jungle film as sort of a Tarzan pastiche.
Right.
Prior to that, he's really just kind of a soft romantic lead in a lot of things. He was kind of not really up for this film because he hadn't done a lot of the stunts and actions and stuff. But he said, no, I did just recently in George of the Jungle. Okay, they cast him. But sort of like Bruce Willis in Die Hard, they keep him out of the marketing because they don't want people to think it's like a silly, goofy movie.
Yeah, that was my impression of him like as a kid, is that, he's like a comedic actor. Probably mostly
he's my buddy.
George of the Jungle, which he is, very funny in that movie. But yeah, he can do action, he can do stunts,
he can, but Jacob, I think it's hard to separate that really the action films that he does are 3 Mummy movies. Like other than this, he does like Furry Vengeance, which is a kid's film. He does Monkey Bone, which is like a comedy. He does a lot of very goofy films is sort of what he uses blank check until he gets to, I would say, that Journey to the Middle of the Earth movie where he kind of does action again.
Right.
Another making an old movie again. Journey to the Center of the Earth, right?
And then, kind of blacklisted from Hollywood for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah, which sucked, of course.
Due to some very bullshit, reasons. But we're glad that he's back now and crushing it. More
and now
he
has an Academy Award. Now, Rachel Weisz was obviously the big Academy Award winner. It's the reason she didn't come back for the 3rd film. Now we live in a world where it's like, no, my friend. The Whale himself has an Academy Award, and that's fucking cool.
Yeah. He's always been a likable actor. He's a big part of, I think, my childhood or late, teenage years with these movies. And it's just cool to have him get some recognition. And so good on you, Brendan. Congrats.
He's great in this movie.
And he's Canadian, right?
Maybe his best. I'm Dudley Do-Right is so Canadian, Mike. I would have to assume he is Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm sure he might be. Yeah. Seems like a Canadian guy.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, dang it. His parents are Canadian.
This movie in general. Great casting. I love the leads are great. Rachel Weisz is great.
They're all nobodies. None of these people were really like popping at that time.
Yeah.
No, and who plays Jonathan? Because he's great.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Jonathan Hyde is his name. Literally just John Hyde, I think.
Hannah, I think.
John Hannah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.
But even the supporting actors, I think, are great. Like obviously, Arnold Vosloo as Imhotep is great. I love the Benny actor, like that. Like Benny is such a great character. He's just
is incredible.
He'll be in Resident Evil eventually.
But Benny, as a character, I love because he's just like a complete piece of shit. And
Oh man, it's like throw me the rope, but for the whole movie. Like fucking you over,
backstabbing people, and just like
yeah.
he's gonna die like horribly in the third act somehow, but like you can get his comeuppance. But
they keep Kevin J. O'Connor. He plays the Legionnaire assistant to Rick O'Connell's foreign Legionnaire. I guess corporal or colonel or lieutenant, whatever the hell he is. Kevin J. O'Connor is so good in this role as Benny that my siblings and I growing up would call these types of characters Bennies. Like we would watch other movies and be like, "Oh, that guy's like a Benny. That's so cool."
That's a great term. I need to steal that. It's like Patches in Dark Souls.
Movies should have
Benny.
more Bennies.
Yeah.
We should have more Bennies.
I guess like those two pirates in the Pirates of the Caribbean are like the Bennies, maybe like the Ragetti and Pinchetti.
Oh yeah. And even just Goodbye Benny is like a 3 times called back to in this movie, or
he keeps coming back, and
you're gonna get yours, Benny. Yep.
Because Jake Johnson is the Benny and the Tom Cruise Jacob, but they do have an interesting, different thing with him that I don't really like. Actually,
he's totally wasted in that movie, unfortunately, Jake Johnson. But only one of the many problems with that movie.
Yes, that you said you like.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, the cast is really strong in this. I think all the supporting, it's good chemistry, good. Yeah,
the guy that comes with him, like the warden that's going to hang Rick O'Connell in the beginning. He's good. Like the 3 Americans, like all the supporting characters, like are just really well.
I would argue the Americans casting is so perfect. I don't know who any of those guys are, but it's so important that those guys all kind of look like knockoff versions of Brendan Fraser, because then he pops and blows them out of the water with his acting and star ability.
It is
that's
pretty
like
funny.
The point.
They're like the most generic Americans ever, like shooting their guns.
Truly.
And then Jonathan's like classic Americans with their guns. They still making those jokes.
Very Bram Stoker's Dracula feel. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that story, but sort of the way that they're sort of like hiding or protecting themselves away from a force, why there's sort of like this cadre of men who are like, well, I'm in this adventure for this. And they're sort of like getting picked off by this mysterious figure. I love that.
I love the race to the treasure kind of thing.
It's that's a perfect screenwriting moment. This is, and Jacob, you brought up the screenplay of Pirates. This is another, and it's unfortunate to keep calling out the movies around our time period of when we saw them, because I know it sounds so much like nostalgia, but this is a perfect screenplay.
That's what I think. There are so many comparisons between Curse of the Black Pearl specifically in this movie, because they're just like perfect blockbuster template movies, like the kind that they just don't really make anymore, it seems like.
Like we go to the City of the Dead twice, they go to the Island of Dead twice, like for the climax. It's like it is the same movie kind of.
It's got the same structure.
Yeah, and they're racing to the treasure and all that. But
it's the same issue you and I point out, Mike, with the length a little bit, where I'm like, what is this about plagues are affecting the city? Like, let's get past this part. Like every time I watch this, I'm like, no, I don't remember this part. Like
the city part a little bit.
It's got a bit of a slow build to start, I think. You're kind of introducing, these characters and like the time
backstory of Emotep too.
Maybe last thing worth pointing out, and then maybe we start going through the plot here. But how do you guys think these special effects hold up? Now, Stephen Sommers' other pitch to get in and to secure the job was, I want to go in on this new technology called CGI and do something you could never do before and make like a mummy that's like a creature.
Honestly, they look pretty good for the time period. Like for 1999, you could do a lot worse for special effects.
Yeah, and there's some shots that it's more obvious than others. I do think they leaned in a little too far. Like there's some shots where it's like a CG mummy hand, and it's like you could have just put a green sleeve on half a guy's arm. Like a little bit more practical, because the practical like princess mummy that's chasing Rachel Weisz, I think that looks great. So maybe some of the warriors could have been more practical.
And
but
other than
that,
practical when they're chasing.
Emotep is pretty good though. Yeah.
The Imhotep's good, and some of those warriors are practical. I think I'm with Mike though. When they become a little Bugs Bunny with the jaws on the warriors is when I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Like that's the scary
I'm not
part.
positive we needed to do that. Yeah.
But Imhotep looks pretty good. I think that the interesting thing to me is just that Pirates 2003, 4 years later, I think effects improved a lot because I think
Yeah.
the cursed pirates look a lot better than the CG in this. But 4 years is a long time in that era because things were moving at such a fast pace for technology.
And we can't just say it doesn't look as good as Jurassic Park. That would be rude, but it's also true. And that was 1993, but that's a weird gold standard thing.
Yeah, that
it's an
is true
anomaly.
to point out, though. I was
This is like
so
prequels
early,
era,
Mike.
so you're talking about, comparing it to like the Star Wars
Like
prequels.
a Jar Jar.
I would say this looks better than some of the droids in Attack of the Clones, though.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely.
know.
But
I think they're so busy, the prequels, with stuff.
Yeah, there's so much. You're right.
Yeah.
Because this has some of the best sets, I would argue, in any of the films we've ever covered, and they are practical. So
and we're doing
that
fires
really
and
helps.
explosions. Yeah, like bullet holes.
Yeah.
Cool stuff's
Great
going on
cinematography.
practically.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, the ceiling caving in. Yeah, all that stuff is really, really cool here. And Star Wars was on a green screen or blue screen.
Yeah, I mean, there was just nothing.
There's nothing.
Just nothing.
And then Jurassic Park, they were just clever. The close-ups would be real, and the wide shots would be the only CG stuff. So they were shooting it way smart. So
right. And Spielberg learned from Jaws, like less is more kind of thing. So
yes.
Jurassic
anyway,
Park, obviously, an unimpeachable classic. So
yeah,
beat that.
I can't believe that T-Rex, but I can't also believe that we're going to get cursed by a mummy as we talk about the plot of this right after this.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we have unearthed our episode on The Mummy, 1999, here on Normies Like Us, like we said. Stop, Jacob. Don't read from that book.
I'm going to
read from that book. Whatever you do.
Yep. Nope. The book of
or maybe
the
you
book
should.
of the Sun, right?
Yeah, Book of the Sun, because
it said it was in the Anubis statue. We got the right one. We can read it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's read it. Let's go through the plot of this film.
Yeah, I mean, we open in ancient Egypt, and we get kind of the backstory of Imhotep, and there was a forbidden love with the, girl of the Pharaoh.
Moon.
Yes.
Who is the betrothed to the Pharaoh. Imhotep is a priest, a high priest,
something like that.
Yeah.
High priest in his court thing, but they're having an affair,
figure.
And then they betray the Pharaoh and murder him, which is not good to do. No. And and as their punishment, they get caught and they get super cursed, basically.
They get mummified, as Jonathan Hanna will say later. He was very naughty, which is the reason that this is happening in a great line. I like this as the setup because Arnold Vosloo, who plays the mummy, like we said, really came into this and won this role because he was like, I'm going to play this like we are Romeo and Juliet. And we are in love and we are being robbed of that. And I am the hero of this story. And I think it really does come across. And again, I think it's because of the strength of the writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good. And he's just with a stare, too, because there's not a lot of talking. He just sells kind of this.
He does not speak in English in this film, I don't believe. Correct? Nope. He is only subtitled. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. With the Egyptian. And yeah, the set's beautiful. Like the makeup, like the gold on that actress and stuff. It's a great little scene, but it sets the tone. I like it. Good little vignette. Yep.
Yeah, it's looking suave. Yeah.
Yep. And then we're in modern day. We're now looking for people are looking for the city and kind of go from there.
The 1920s.
City of the Dead. It's the Foreign Legionnaires, like we said. There's an expedition. They're fighting off the Magi, which we're going to learn later, which are these, this protective culture who are keeping people away. They are sort of the bodyguards that the Pharaoh left behind, sort of the descendants of that to keep punishing Imhotep. And we meet the head Legionnaire. His name is Rick O'Connell. And he's a guy who doesn't weigh 900 pounds. He still has all his hair. He's basically the sexiest human being alive.
Yeah. He's looking great. He's getting Bennied right away, too. Don't you close that door, Benny? It's like they're setting it up, again, very efficient first act to establish.
I love when he's like, you just got promoted. And then he's like, actually, I'm going to run away, too, because I'm a coward.
Yeah.
Very funny stuff. Don't close that door.
Don't close that door,
Benny. We see him being an action hero, and he's just, fucking shooting people everywhere.
Yep, it's a great costume with the two cross-draw pistol holsters, little vest thing. Yeah, it's a good look.
Yeah. And then he sees some supernatural stuff, right? And then we cut to
He's a little dirt devil.
yeah.
Yes.
We cut to Evie, our second lead character, I guess, played by
3
Rachel
years
Weisz.
later, he gets captured, and we leave it at that.
That's right.
3 years later, we cut away.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Evie, who's working at this library in Egypt and is a sort of an Egyptologist.
Maybe the Museum of Cairo, perhaps, or something. I think, right?
Could be.
Something to that degree, yeah. And this again, we're doing great character intros with these scripts. Like we're maybe 5, 10, or 10 minutes in or something, and she loves Egypt. We get it, but she's like charming. But this scene of the bookshelves falling around her, and it's a one take, like 360 pan back to her close up. I'm like, you would have had to reset all those books. Like the effort that's going into some of these gags, I just want to appreciate. So she knocks over all the bookshelves on accident.
It's clumsy.
It's great. It's great writing, Mike, and it's a great performance by Rachel Weisz, mainly because it's sort of built around this premise of she's listless. She wants more. She feels restless in her life. She thinks she wants adventure. She thinks that will lead to fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And subtextually, there's this sort of underlying current of she's a woman. Maybe she's not allowed to have adventures or, grander purpose or, more outgoing ways. And I would say a film, I don't know if you guys saw Jungle Cruise, where Emily Blunt is essentially playing the exact same character who just very much says every 10 seconds, "You're not letting me do this because I'm a woman," is not good writing. This is much stronger, and not just because of it being subtle, but just because it feels so much more purposeful, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's some like class themes in this too, where you have
for sure
her and her brother, who are these posh British, probably pretty wealthy people, and then you have Rick O'Connell, this dirty, grungy American low life kind of guy.
Right.
Cleans up well, obviously, but
we also have similar to Pirates. We'll just say big colonizer energy happening. Like another theme
that are
not a lot of people of color in a film called The Mummy. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, that's happening. It's a
Arnaud
theme
Vosloo,
park
I'm not
ride.
positive what his background is either. I'm not positive it's Egyptian in any sort of way.
Right.
So I believe it might be Armenian.
Well, that's John Rhys Davies throwback.
There's some racial caricatures of some of these side characters that might make you a little uncomfortable. But
But Pirates is like the imaginary world of pirate that doesn't exist, and this is like the imaginary world of Rick O'Connell Mummy universe, right?
Right.
Big colonizer energy. I'm so excited for us to do Lone Ranger and finish out our colonizer trilogy.
The Colonizer 3. Oh my god. Anyway, don't colonize people; it's bad. But so
please.
We have our British and American leads in Egypt, as we want to do.
Yes.
And so Rick knows where Rick. So someone's going to get hanged in the beginning of this movie. Someone's got to save him. So
she uncovers information that they need to go on this adventure to find this lost city. Right. Well, we know someone who could do this. They go to this slave auction. Now we meet Brendan Fraser. It's been 3 years, like we said. He's been imprisoned. His hair has grown out. He has this tremendous beard. Now, guys, this is injury 1. That will essentially lead him to becoming the Brendan Fraser he is now, which is sort of like a very crippled, sort of like fused person.
Yeah.
Post George of the Jungle, like we said, wasn't doing stunts. So he jumps on this, wanting to be the guy who's like, I'm going to do everything. Have you guys seen Looney Tunes Back in Action, a Joe Dante film?
I have not.
Probably not for a long time.
He plays a stunt double in that movie who is Brendan Fraser's stunt double and calls out that he was the guy really doing all the stunts in The Mummy. That asshole who hurt himself, he's just lying. Now, what he's referring to is this scene here. He hurts a vertebrae in his neck in this hanging scene for real and almost dies while shooting this sequence.
I was thinking, how did they do that? And then they push into his face. It's like it's definitely him in one shot. And I thought it's so dangerous looking. I thought that too. And it sucks that he got hurt for real. That's tragic.
Yeah, you shouldn't hang people.
I was thinking, how do you pull it off? Do their own stunts? I like. Except what Tom is Cruise. The point? You hear these things where these people do this stuff, and like it's Toby who hurt his back doing Spider-Man, right? Like you hear these people who like do this stuff all day, 14-hour days, get hurt, and then are like, well, I'm never going to act again. And you're like, oh my God, why did you do that?
It just depends, I guess, on risk reward. Like, is it worth potentially dying? Like, or like with
Tom
Keanu
Cruise,
Reeves, it's like, yeah, Keanu Reeves, it's like, I have a body skill I would like to show off, like my, right. But it's opposed to like, yeah, just do the stunt for what? Bragging rights? Like, no, we need to be safe.
I like actors to do as many stunts as they can, just because when you use stunt double and stuff, you have to cut away or you have to be clever about how you show them. And you can do, when the actor is doing not all their stunts, but at least enough that you can like show their face and stuff sometimes. Like it's a lot easier to
So all actors should have twin siblings who are their stunt doubles. I agree with you, Jacob.
Yes, they are cloned. It's like the island. Their only purpose is to be a stunt double.
You will die in this movie explosion.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But that shot was crazy. You know, so he knows where the City of the Dead is. So he's trying to get Rachel Weisz to get him out of there. But yeah, when I still don't know how they did it. But plot moving forward, she does, you know, wager, you know, cut him down.
Yeah, she barters with that dude, and then
for like 25% of the treasure, a little 30, 25, he goes down on accident, you know, a little joke there.
She says to herself, I'm not even going to have to worry about this. You're going to be full of scarabs in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Foreshadowing.
And then they, you know, head out on this boat, and that's where our adventure kind of begins. We meet the Americans, like I said. Yeah. And I'm enjoying the character building here, right? We're getting to know these characters. Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz does the whole, he's scruffy, nerf herder, I don't like him at all, and then shows up and he's all handsome. Whoa. Seeing stars. Yeah, now he's action hero movie man, you know? So yeah. So the boat sequence, we're learning sort of our key players. Other people are also gunning for this treasure. We're meeting kind of the rival faction. Benny, you son of a Benny, you're here.
They have their own tour guide in Benny. They have their own smart guy in the dad from Jumanji. The Egyptologist who will like read their book. And then they're, like we said, a cadre of rednecks. You're like, yeah, this is perfect.
Yep.
They bet Rick O'Connell, $500 if you can get to the temple before we do. Yeah.
Oh, and they keep saying, these Americans, no offense to Rick O'Connell, and I think that's funny. He's like, none taken. Like, I know you get it. You don't like Americans. No, none taken. That's why I thought he was Canadian. I thought it was extra funny that, like, he's not even really American. But anyway.
The Magi attack again, right? He blasts a couple of them away.
They sneak up with their little ships and climb aboard, and yeah, we get a cool action scene. They want to get the map and the key. Jonathan had the key that he stole from Rick O'Connell or got from somebody at some point. So they have the key, they have the map, and then that's what they're coming to get to keep people away.
Right. There's a big fight on the boat.
Practical effects.
Boat gets set on fire.
Looks incredible.
The fire is 100% Rick O'Connell's fault because he shot that lantern. The first lantern that fell, that's his fault. That was a bad thing.
It was planned.
To save,
I guess. It ended up working out, I guess.
Should be careful on like wooden boats and stuff having lanterns.
Yeah, but I love the practical effects here. There's fire. We're getting explosions, bullet stuff, like little sight gags where Rachel Weisz has to pull them out of the way. Like I love all this stuff. It's charming.
Yeah, she's proving her own. They're bonding. We get to the next day, which this is where they do their little camel race, right, to get to the city.
You're on the wrong side of the river, Benny.
Yeah, Benny.
You're on the wrong side of the river.
Yeah, we have all the camels, or horses.
Yeah. They have horses and a camel.
I love this.
Camels. And then we get some nice scenes of them on camels. We get some nice sunsets and stuff. Sweeping
Lawrence of Arabia
shots.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Mission Impossible, Dead
John
Reckoning,
Wick,
or whatever one was. Yeah, John Wick. All these films this year that have ripped this off.
Classics.
Then we get the introduction to the city as they get there, and this super cool, it's a mirage, or like you can only see it from like a certain angle or something, right?
A certain time. It's kind of like the Indiana Jones, the staff, right? The sun shining through the staff.
Yeah. And then the Hobbit, the keyhole will be shown when the thrush knocks in the first light, kind of thing. I love this stuff, so classic. We get into the city, and then we're like, basically both parties are exploring in separate directions.
Yeah, for Yes, but for how against each other they are and how much they're going to keep pulling their guns on each other, Mike, it really is. They keep just arriving at these places and going like, all right, well, you take that side, we'll take this side.
Yeah,
Like they really do like
right.
cohabitating.
Yeah,
they
they're
don't
like,
want
yeah,
to kill
go
each
for it.
other.
Well, it has
Um,
all the treasure and all of Egypt's history supposedly hidden down there. So
Yes.
there's enough to go around, but whoever discovers it first gets all the credit, I suppose, which is also maybe what Rachel Weisz
And do
was after.
people, because obviously it was a big deal when Tutankhamun was found, I believe, in our lifetime, right? Like in the 90s, right? Do people still
Tutankhamun?
find pharaohs and tombs and stuff? I guess they are still out there, right?
I thought they found Tutankhamun in like the 50s or something.
That's what I
Oh,
thought.
really?
But
Well, that's
I'm
I'm a
not an
vampire.
expert.
that's
I
right.
didn't tell you that. I was there. I remember.
Guys,
Yeah.
it was 1922.
Okay, yes, I do
So it was
recall.
like this time.
Yeah, I was there.
I guess that's what this is riffing on.
Yeah.
Well, I think
basically.
that's the thing too, is it's like I'm saying I don't know if they still find tombs and stuff like this. Back then, Britain and stuff would just go and try to get
Yeah.
treasure for their museums, but
Well,
now I don't
that's
think we do
right.
that as much.
That's the ironic thing about like Indiana Jones is like he's always saying like it belongs in a museum. Well, really, it doesn't belong.
Maybe in the
your
country
white
that it
people's
originated
museum.
from.
Yeah.
I deserve to rob these people.
Right.
Like, well, wait, what did you say?
British
Again,
Empire.
Yeah, so it's a weird
90-year-old
bubble.
man is waving that handgun around in that whip.
Honestly, yeah, Emotep is the victim here. This,
Yes.
yeah, this is a cautionary tale. Do not go grave robbing.
Don't go opening things where there might be a curse. I mean,
No.
classic mistake.
In hindsight, the video game title Tomb Raider isn't really a great. It's not a positive thing.
You know
None of
what?
it's a good look.
Lara Croft is guilty. You're right, Mike.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I hope we don't do that now. But I'm sure it's like slower with the archaeological
It's-
stuff. For
I don't know, they
preservation
find
So much
that-
of the world has been discovered now that it's like
They
there's
find
less-
that pyramid in Antarctica in AVP. I think we're gonna find one like that, guys. A hidden pyramid somewhere.
probably a
The
hollow
ice.
Earth, right?
If they do, I just
King Kong's probably
Kong.
running around one
Yeah.
of them right now. So
I will not open anything suspicious if they do find it. That's for sure.
even if the book was called the Book of Life and it wasn't that somebody swapped them and I was really reading from the Book of Death, I would not read from a book called the Book of Life if I found it in a spooky tomb.
No.
Yeah, it's like we said with the Ju-on episodes. Don't mess with supernatural things that you cannot
Yeah,
stop.
I
Right?
I
Like, just in
certainly wouldn't
case.
be reading out loud like an incation. That seems like
No.
you're just asking. to
That's
be
Evil
cursed.
Dead rules. You
That's
do not
true.
just
Yeah,
like start reading
Necronomicon.
stuff you find. It's like it's game over, dog.
Just don't read it out loud. That's a good point, Jacob. Just read it to
Yes.
yourself and write down the
Yes.
translation for other people to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, then
But so
traps
yeah,
started
we're
happening.
excavating where they're looking for the Book of the Dead, like you said.
The American side, they find something and they're going to crack it open, and the guy's like, "No, you should have the workers do that," and then they get misted and
get messed
burn up.
And they find the book and the cantropy jars, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
some jars. Yeah.
And the Book of the Dead, and then Rachel has
Cantropic jars. We've talked about this before. You guys love Egyptian stuff, right? This was my number one interest when I was a kid, was spooky Egyptian shit.
I
wouldn't
had a
say I was
hieroglyphic
big
little
Egypt
workbook and
head.
stuff.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I liked it.
Dinosaurs are better than Egypt. Like if you were at a museum, would you go to the
Jurassic
dinosaur
Park.
exhibit first or the Egypt exhibit first?
I don't know. A T-Rex wrapped like a mummy.
Oh my gosh.
That might be the thing that beats it. I don't
Dinosaur
know.
mummies.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. Yeah,
My
so they're
Fox Kids TV show I pitched in 1991, Dinosaur Mummies. I
Dino
would be
mummies.
a billionaire.
well, they had that like Ninja Turtles ripoff, like Mummies Alive or whatever.
Oh,
Where they're, like,
absolutely. I
superhero
remember
mummies.
Mummies Alive. And did
Well,
you guys watch the animated show of this franchise?
not,
there
but
That's
there
right.
was a Mummy series. Yeah.
Couple
When I was
episodes,
looking
yeah.
for this, which is available, of course, I watched on the Roku channel. I watched this movie for free with ads, of course, but I love.
Hey,
the
shout out to
Roku
Jacob
channel.
who gave us that heads up, because I for sure was pissed as well and was shocked that I don't have these on Blu-ray, but then was like, oh shit, here's the Mummy. Thank you.
Yes, no, that
I
was
could've-
great. And no commercials.
I had commercials.
I got
on mine.
commercials.
I see. Well, I
don't
got
know,
lucky.
How that works, but I could have gone on the high seas, Captain Jack Sparrow style. But I wanted to watch on my big TV, and I didn't want to worry about hooking that up and everything. So I was like,
Yeah.
Roku channel. But while I was looking for it, I did find you can watch the animated series The Mummy on like Amazon or something, and I was like, "What is this? I've never even heard of that." But
that's the next long
yeah.
watch. I'll just do
it's
the
like
whole
the Jackie
thing.
Chan.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the
Adventures.
Jackie Chan
Oh,
Adventures?
all of them.
How-
Yeah, I
absolutely.
watched all of these series. I'm
Incredible
pretty sure I
show.
watched Mummies Alive too.
Yeah.
And was like,
Speaking
oh,
of
this
actors
sucks.
doing their own stunts, and then getting a cartoon.
Yeah.
Jackie
Yep.
Chan, one of those actors. We get the book.
But-
Rachel Weisz ends up stealing it. Dude's sleeping, and she cracks it open with the key, reading from. Well,
Yes.
Jack says, "Don't read from the book." She reads from the book.
Don't
Because on their side, they find Imhotep's body, right? That is what they
Yes.
have discovered in their
Yeah,
part.
just
They
taking
find the
those jars. Oh
sarcophagus.
yes, they're like he's still juicy because we find
He's
he was
juicy. That's they do
Yeah.
say that.
because he was put into this sarcophagus alive, and
Mhm.
these flesh-eating beetles would just slowly eat him to death, and that's how he died. Basically, it's the
Yeah.
worst torture that the ancient Egyptians could have thought of. I
Tongue
guess.
removed,
Mhm.
eye removed. I guess brain removed. Is the
Yeah.
brain in one of those jars too? I think that is what happens when you get mummified. But
Well,
yes,
he was
then
alive. They put him in alive though, so I think he still had his brain.
He had his brain and
Yeah.
stuff, but
But in a typical mummy, yeah, you would pull.
they
the brain
toss
out
him with
through
a
the
beetle
nose.
salad. Yeah.
yeah,
And he
his
gets-
his,
Nom, 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 nom.
his lover got the full treatment though.
Yes,
But meanwhile,
yeah,
we
she got
have
mummified.
our
He got
friend,
cursed.
the warden, he finds these scarabs, right? And he's like, "Oh, free! These look
Blue
like they're
gold.
worth something, right?" Yeah.
Thick. Yeah.
Starts
Blue
peeling them
gold, yeah.
off, and then we get our scarab, which goes into his skin. Now, did this freak you guys out when you were a kid? Because it freaked
So
me out a
much.
lot.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
this was maybe one of the reasons my dad was like, you can't see that in theaters, because I think he saw it prior and was like, no, you and your brother aren't gonna be able to handle this one part.
Yeah.
It's
No,
a
that was very
scary
scary.
idea, like a bug crawling inside your skin and like
Mm,
moving
mm,
around.
mm,
Like, no,
mm,
thank
mm,
you.
Yeah, the CG it's really makes your skin crawl, literally. And the
Yes.
CG is a little bit doesn't hold up now, but back then it was really scary.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so people
And
are
it
being
goes in his
greedy
brain
and being
and
punished.
kills him.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then he
Yeah.
basically just runs into a wall and bashes his brains and dies.
And you're like,
And you're like,
"He's
oh,
Damn.
Yeah.
They,
I don't
they
like
go
how
up
they
there and
kept
control
calling
you.
him smelly too. They're like our
Yeah.
smelly friend.
your
It's not
Yeah.
smelly
nice.
friend. Yeah.
He had good taste. Yeah,
Uh,
that was reductive.
So
But
yeah,
reading
so
from the
they're-
book, it reanimates Emotep because they thought it was
yes,
the book of
wakes him
life.
up,
And now
the
it's popping off.
the three Americans and their Egyptologist are cursed because they took those jars or whatever.
Yep.
And so
Mhm.
they're going to die because he's going to suck all the life out of them. And we get the American with the glasses, right? He drops his glasses. Oh, my
Mhm.
glasses, my
Like he
glasses.
full on Velmas. He
Mhm.
is
Wow.
this brawny, hunk. It's just like is completely useless without his glasses.
Which
Yeah.
for me as a glasses wearer is very funny. Like I have probably the worst vision. Like I have a stronger prescription than like pretty much anyone I know. And
Than me.
I can
think,
still
yeah.
see without my glasses. Like, it's not like you're blind without
Yeah.
them.
Not that you'd be able to navigate out of a foreign pyramid, Jacob, but I would have the confidence that you wouldn't be down on all fours, like crying if your glasses
Yeah.
fell
Yeah.
off.
Like you can see
Oh,
in front
man.
of you. Like you can see if there's like a wall.
Yeah.
Like I can still see shapes. They're just kind of fuzzy, you know?
Yeah, yeah. You could navigate a little bit, but who knows?
But I think
Maybe
it's
his
very
prescription was
funny
super
that-
strong.
Yeah. But it's very funny. His glasses get broken. And then, the mummy gets him and takes his eyes, which I think is very funny to take a guy with bad eyesight.
Oh my gosh.
Eyes. Because
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
that
And then
He's the
Emotep
only
would
one
need
of them wearing
glasses.
glasses. That's right.
I've made a terrible mistake.
These kind of suck. Yeah, I wonder if he trades with one of the other guys he attacks later. It's like, actually, while I'm here,
Maybe that's why he's defeated because he just can't see very clearly.
he's like, wait, what am I fighting?
Yeah,
Like,
like
whoa.
everything's blurry. So
That's
I just thought that
wild.
was funny. Like they took the guy with bad
a good
eyesight
point.
eyes.
Yeah, so that happens. I believe this is where he befriends Benny as well, right? So in the chaos of people getting shuffled around, Benny is like, you know what? Yoink, yoink, yoink. I'm gonna grab
This is
some
a
stuff
very
while I'm
funny
here.
scene.
Oh shit! I mean, this is again the scene to the movie of me. I know I'm saying every scene with Benny is like the
Yeah.
scene of the
Yeah.
movie,
But when he has all
but
those
the
different
thing as a kid, when he
Yeah.
pulls up the different medallions, Jacob, of each religion, and he says a
Yes.
little Muslim prayer, He says, a little bit of Christianity.
says,
The Buddhist one.
Maybe
Buddhism.
this Egyptian mummy is Buddhist. We don't know.
Finally, he brings out, a little Shabbat Shalom. He brings out the Star of David,
Hebrew,
and for
yeah.
the mummy to say, the symbol
language
of
of
the
the
slaves. Yeah, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
No.
Well, that makes sense, right? The
It
Jews were
does.
the slaves of the Egyptians.
It does.
when
It is
Jesus-
so much me
Yeah.
sitting in I don't know what you guys called it, but after school Bible school, where you would sit and just like learn all this stuff of like
Moses.
Noah and Moses and all yes,
Yeah.
where you just be like, oh shit, of course. And he basically enlists Benny to be his little cohort for this. We know Benny's greedy. He's going to be rewarded for this, but taking on this kind of deal with the devil, I fucking love this.
Yeah, and then he's like, he's trying to maneuver people to benefit Emotep, and it's like, oh, Benny, come on.
Benny.
It's not gonna
What's
work,
funny
man.
about him is like he is like a total piece of shit, but he's like pretty competent in that he knows like all those different languages and can like talk himself out of situations and stuff. Like he's always like trying to get the upper hand, and like he'll backstab anyone at a moment's notice. But
Chaos
yes.
is a ladder,
Yeah.
dude.
yeah,
Chaos is a ladder.
And you're going to get yours, Benny. I've never heard that before, he says. Like he has been doing this for a while and getting away with it. Yeah.
That's true. Chaos is a ladder. The script is chaos personified because, of course, every 5 minutes the Magi do just attack out of nowhere. That is what we get now while all that stuff is happening in the pyramid and post Evie reading the book.
Mhm.
She gets a little drunk, sitting by the fire. She has maybe my favorite line again in this movie where she says, I'm a librarian and I'm drunk and I'm going to kiss you. And she goes in to kiss Rick. And I was like, this is the hottest movie that's ever existed. But then no, Magi attack chaos.
yes.
Right. And then they're like, all right, we're going to stop killing you now. Just leave. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
weird flex.
Okay. I
Gotcha.
guess we're
Also, I
done.
mean,
We'll
Rick
give you one
O'Connell
day.
blasts a bunch of those guys. And
So
then-
Evie takes a shotgun and
Yeah.
truly 2 centimeters away from the guy's head destroys him. This is, I guess, a PG-13 movie. I'm not, or
Yeah.
PG. It's like an action
Right.
adventure. It's not a kids movie, but it is like
13.
Maybe
maybe
darker stuff,
silly enough that it's kind of geared towards kids. Jonathan swills from his whiskey bottle with pistols, shoots Magi, kills them. Our heroes are killing the bad guys. They are dying by bullets.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then their leader is just like cool with them later because
Right.
he
Yeah,
earned
they
my
killed like
respect.
30 of them.
One guy
Yeah.
caught on fire.
Yes.
Like, that was crazy. Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah. There is some
But
violence
really, they're just
here,
trying
yeah.
to stop. They're just trying to stop Imhotep from being brought back to life. So
But
really,
just
they're
tell
the
us
good
that.
They
guys.
blew it.
These
tell
white
us that.
colonizers coming in and like ruining things.
Hey,
are
there's
really
this
the
guy
bad
Exactly.
Imhotep in there, Mike. You're not going to want to deal with him. Oh, okay.
Then,
Yeah.
but again, they would probably in hubris be like, "No, we're gonna go anyway." But
Yeah.
they should have been like, "Hey guys, don't mess around in there." Maybe.
Well, I think their only response back
Instead of
would be
shooting
like,
them.
but what about the treasure? And then I think if you say that, I'm like, well, then you guys are the villains. You're
Well, they're
just
also
I
like
want treasure.
robbing this place.
Yeah, they,
That's
like,
true.
totally are the villains because like they do say like, oh, if you stay here, you'll die, and they don't explain it very well, but they mean like the mummy's gonna like kill you guys, basically.
Yeah.
So they're trying
So-
to warn them while also fighting them, but they're like, we'll let you go. Like you should leave like tomorrow though. But they don't, of
Yeah.
course.
Nope. And I think that's then now the mummy's on the loose, unchained. So they really did go in for greed, caused a huge problem that could end the world, and then had to solve it. Like they created the
Yeah.
mess.
Typical
Rick started
British.
the fire.
And that's kind of my issue with the world-ending stakes that it adds with the plagues affecting Egypt. Because if
Mhm.
it stayed with the slasher movie aesthetic that it kind of becomes, where it's like you keep cutting to these other people who are like, I'm the guy with no eyes, but like life's still pretty good. When they're like, tee, tee, tee. Yeah, he's
Mhm.
just like getting picked off. That's
Yeah.
All
cool.
the people who were cursed. Yeah. It's
Yes, and it's the whole thing of like you did something wrong, you need to pay off it. It's like The Ring or Ju-on, like
Yeah.
we
Yep, yep.
talked about, but instead it makes this big action movie of being like, and they have to save the world too, and you're like, nah,
Like, yeah.
know.
Well,
And that's
obviously, if
when
you
we
let these
Get that city scene.
ancient mummies come back to life, they're gonna probably try to take over the world.
Yeah,
That's the next step.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think he just wants to date his girlfriend. Like if I was
Yeah.
him, I would be saying this in Egyptian so no one would understand it. I'd be like, I am here for a nuk sana moon, and they'd be like, well, what the fuck does that mean?
Right.
It is
Like
interesting, like the parallels, to the 2017 version where they gender flip, where basically
Mhm.
Sophia Boutella is the Emotep character, but she's like a female version. Then she's trying to resurrect her boyfriend, basically, which is Tom Cruise is going to be like the human sacrifice to bring back her boyfriend. So it's
Right.
just this scenario gender flipped, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which they kind of do at the end of this. That's kind of why he takes Evie at the end, right? To sacrifice her to.
So she's going to be sacrificed to bring back Anux.
Which that's Dracula, like, oh, my bride, like,
yes, 100%.
You're my wife from 5,000 years ago. Oh God, you're back.
Yeah.
Would you stay with your girlfriend, Mike, if when you opened the door one time she was being kissed by a man with no mouth?
As long as she wasn't consenting to it. If she wasn't down and it wasn't cheating,
she was cheating on you. Yeah.
Yeah, but if she was a worm and that happened, probably not.
Okay.
So they're back at like their hotel, right? And
we can't leave till the next day.
Yeah, Benny is now working for Emotep, of course. So they show up, talking to the blind guy now, suck him dry, and they're like, "Oh shit,
my financier would like to speak with you."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he puts him right into the lion's den. Benny's doing all this. And slowly, like Colin said, the slasher is happening. Like each of these cowboy American guys is slowly getting drained. He's getting his power back.
The guy who loses his tongue, guys.
Yeah, and his eyes.
I don't know. I don't want Emotep sucking any of me, but like, if you're gonna do it, like, don't take my tongue,
bro. Yeah, and then it's so humiliating because he knocks over his teacup, and Benny's just like, it's so bad.
Benny's being so good in that scene, but by being
extra
such
mean.
a piece of shit. Yeah, it's like Benny, I'm gonna be so excited to watch you die in an hour.
it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Yeah.
Yes.
We also meet this old British pilot character who will be important in a little bit at the bar, right? And and then they're trying to escape. We kind of find out that Emotep wants to take Rachel Weisz back to the city of the dead so that he can resurrect his girlfriend.
Luckily, Evie has a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's scared of cats, of course.
Which is very funny.
Guardians of the dead and the litter boxes.
But if I'm
I'm
not mistaken, like in ancient Egypt, like cats were seen as like holy animal, like royalty, basically.
Yeah.
So
as
I guess
they should
evil
be.
Egyptian person.
Were they all the naked ones, or were they just like cats?
I'm not
I
sure.
think they just had regular cats too.
Okay.
I wasn't there. But they say they're the guardians of the afterlife. I don't know why he's scared of a cat, but he is.
That's accurate though. But
but I like when Rick O'Connell shows up later. He's like, "Look what I have," and he just holds up a cat.
Yeah, that is a masterful moment. And I will say, because Mike, again, you have to imagine, because in that scene he's acting against like a big CGI mummy. Brendan Fraser is one of our best green screen reactors. Considering this is early CGI, he's a guy who you can imagine just telling them like, "Hey, this tennis ball is a twister with a face," and he's like, "Okay, I got it." And he does a very good job portraying that.
Yeah.
No, like I was saying, he has great reactions to this. Like the moment where those three guards are going at him, and he's like, "Ah!" and then they
scream moment. I mean, that's the moment a movie star is born. I would argue, Jacob. That is when, if you're in an audience watching that, you're like, this guy should be in movies for the rest of my life.
Yeah. No. And then Captain Marvel did that.
Yes, that's Mike. That's such a weird. That must be an homage.
It has to be.
Right.
It's a trope. Yeah. It's a Rick O'Connell. Interesting.
But he is very Indiana Jones here with the reactions, and I like when Evie's like, "Oh, patience is a virtue," and he's just like, "Not right now, it isn't."
Oh yeah, there's
Very
a lot
Indiana
of those good lines. Yeah.
This is a perfect movie.
Yeah. So they're got it now. Emotep's powered up. He's taking Evie, and they're getting chased out of the city. One of the American guys falls off the car, and it's like a D&D module, like Call to the Lizard Lord or whatever. And like,
well, suddenly there's a zombie virus.
Yeah,
so
that's
there's
strange.
Again, things are. The scaling, again, it just seems like everything's getting too big for me, but I do like that they are like, I don't know, let's put fucking everything in this movie. Like, who fucking cares?
Well, I do like that he's like, it makes sense that he's like calling plagues. Like, it's like, okay, damn.
Yeah. asteroids, fucking
Yeah.
blood and frogs,
Flies,
and
turns
gnats
the
and
water.
shit.
It's
Like
like, yeah.
it's all again. I said Bible school. Like literally, you just imagine Stephen Sommers being like, "If I'm making one of these movies, like I'm putting all this fucking shit in because it's like
Yeah,
it's like what
absolutely.
people expect. It's like
And
it's
we're gonna
great.
do CG. It makes sense too. We're
Yeah.
just gonna go crazy with it. So
Yes.
things are
Basically, he's got like
escalating.
an army of zombie slaves, right?
Mm-hmm.
The museum curator guy gets eaten here or killed or whatever. As
It's
well.
revealed he was one of the Magi the whole time. Maybe
That's
at the end of
right.
it or whatever. That's why he was discouraging
burned the
Evie
map
from
at the
going on this
beginning.
adventure. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, and then he had the book, and Rachel Wise.
He's
Not a
meddling
wise
British
thing to
people,
do.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But our
they're-
heroes get away.
Yes.
And there's only one thing they can do to get Evie back. And now, Jacob, that drunk pilot you mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they might need his assistance.
Yes. They're like, he's like, is it dangerous? They say, yeah, you probably will die doing this. And then about 5 minutes later, he dies.
Yes.
But he
This
was
is a
talking
guy
about how he wished
truly
he could
you
die.
imagine was in Lawrence of Arabia. Like, this is a
Right.
guy where they're like, well, yeah, like 5 years ago, he was like killing most of the people who are like serving him in a bar now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and he just wants another adventure, which is sort of a recurring motif of this film of like yearning, for adventure.
He's like an old alcoholic pilot. And
He
like,
said
I've
after
done
the
a
Great
lot.
War, so it's like he was a World War One
Yeah.
pilot. All of his friends died,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I wish I could have gone out in a blaze of glory." It's like, well, guess what, buddy?
Yes.
I think you
But
got
I
your
feel like
chance.
how they're like, yeah, everyone else we've run into has died, so you're probably going to die, and then he
Mhm.
does die.
Yeah, but
But
They
he has
loves
a
it.
very
That's what he
heroic,
wanted.
Yeah.
plane flight before that.
he has the best
So-
ending.
Yeah.
He does. I don't know if you guys remember in the next, you said you didn't see the third one, Jacob, but in the next two Mummy movies, they do stop down to take a beat. And every time Rick O'Connell introduces a new guy who's like, this is Steve the pilot, or this is like Doug the dirigible driver. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and it's literally this trope in all three of these
Oh,
movies,
really?
which really sucks.
Wow, I didn't know
You're
they.
probably
I
gonna
didn't
die.
even think about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. But we're on a race.
One of them
back
is
to the pyramid.
Sir Davos. It's Liam Cunningham.
Love
Nice,
Liam
nice,
Cunningham.
nice.
I think that might be
Great
the Tomb of the
actor.
Dragon Emperor. Unfortunately.
I need to watch that one. Yeah.
Which does have Yetis. I'm going to say that as well.
I
I
think.
will say I do.
Yeah, we'll save
The
it.
sequel to this, Mummy Returns, I do like it. I think is from my memory.
I
It's got a family vibe to it with the kid and everything.
yes,
Yeah.
it blew me away so much as being the first one of these that I got to see in theaters that I remember leaving so satisfied. I've returned to it a couple times in the past few years, and with each viewing liked it less and less. So I almost have to like use it as like a reserve now at this point where it's like don't overload on that.
Yeah,
Put that
yeah.
away.
I
Maybe we'll
haven't
do
seen
that
it in
one
years.
day on this
Yeah.
episode,
Maybe
on
one
this
day.
podcast.
But for now, yeah, we're returning to the pyramid to try to save Evie, and
Yes.
stop the curse. So, because we have
We get the
learned the books
crash.
were
We get the
switched.
big special effect.
Yep.
This is maybe the big special effect in the
Yeah.
movie, the sandstorm.
Right.
Yeah, and it's cool.
Darude.
And it's on the poster too. Yeah, hell yeah. That's got to go in this now. That's the
I
final
was
break.
like, "Are you sure you can drive through this?"
Dang. Gotta make that edit. That's incredible.
Yeah. What he does, he gets our heroes through. Then they crash land. He dies. The plane sinks into quicksand. But
Yeah.
our heroes are
Also,
there.
even if I'm an old man and I go on this adventure with you, and you told me I'm gonna die, don't just leave me to get sucked up into the earth. Like, you have to pull my body out after we crash. You can't just
Yeah.
pan over and be like, "We did it, Colin." Colin? Oh
he
no!
looks so
That's
peaceful
like
in death, though.
bury me, and not there. Don't bury me in the sand.
I don't think they had
You're next
time,
to the
though, 'cause they're
kings.
just like,
Doesn't
"Get
even get
away."
me out of there. It doesn't matter. Leave me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But they head back to the city of the dead, right?
yep.
And they're trying to get in,
Confrontation
trying to
time.
save Rachel
The
Weisz.
Magi come. They're going to team up now because obviously they think things are wrong. Oded Fair, who again, Mike shouted out from Resident Evil. This guy's the sexiest guy on the planet. He will
He's cool.
eventually play literally the gigolo of Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo. I don't know if you guys recall. Those films are about Rob Schneider impersonating a real gigolo. That's Oded Fair because he's so sexy. He undoes his thing now. He's got like his hair down. He's got his two little face tattoos. Stephen
Yes.
Sommers said that character was supposed to be head to toe covered in tattoos. But once he saw Oded Faircast, he was like,
too good looking.
no, this guy, he's like,
Yeah.
no. One, we're going to show his face. And two,
Yeah.
no, we are not covering him in tattoos. But we get this great moment where they're going to team up. They get their swords or whatever, and they say that they're going to like raise the former first Magi who will be able to like counteract the magic of Imhotep, and we'll get some good guys on our side too.
Yeah. But
I might have zoned out during that because I don't even remember.
This is where it gets a little like where people are like, you're going to reverse read the book upside down, and she's going to do this thing, and you're like, yeah. Like to Rick O'Connell, you just imagine him nodding and being like, I'm going to stab Imhotep. Like whatever you're saying, like I'm barely listening.
Right. Jonathan's trying to translate the golden book so that he can control the servants or the priests or whatever.
Yeah, Imhotep raises his servants up so that he has his lackeys, and
we get some great fight scenes where Rick O'Connell's just fighting a bunch of them at once and doing pretty well, but eventually he gets overpowered. But that's when
they are undead. So
and he's able to. There's some great gags where it gets crushed under the stone that it's lifting up to crush him with. He cuts his leg off, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Imhotep is able to bring back his bride. I can't remember her name. I don't know why, but
Anaxanamun. But she's
still the mummy. It's not complete yet.
Yeah.
And I like that. She's like really scary.
It's
like
very weird.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's chasing Rachel Wise during this too. But basically we get to Jonathan's controlling the mummies, and he turns them on her, and at that moment, I actually felt like kind of bad for Imhotep. I'm like, 3,000 years, and you almost got what you want. And then he just had your own guards, and it was brutal. Like, they show the silhouette, but they're like stabbing her and doing it's not.
You got to decide between like chasing after Rick O'Connell or trying to save her and stuff.
Save her.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for her.
Psychological warfare,
Yeah. So they kill his girlfriend, and now he's like, well, nothing but revenge time. So he's coming after them. They eventually do the incantation to turn him mortal, and
summons like the former pharaoh on like a spirit chariot, right? That runs through him and like steals his soul, and you're like, oh shit,
it's pretty badass.
Oh my god.
Yeah. They're like, I thought this killed him, he's still alive, but then Rick O'Connell stabs him, he's like, he's mortal, and then sinks back into the water
pool.
Or whatever, the liquid, and
the drowning pool.
I love the the effect is good when he's like turning back into a mummy. Like I thought that was well done.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, his skin goes away.
Fully awesome. Yeah.
I had one thought because I rewatched the opening of this when I was prepping the episode, and I wished it was the same sword that Imhotep had used to kill the emperor that Brendan Fraser used. It was not. I was not, but I think that would be a nice detail.
You're right. It's like a scimitar thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Rick's is like more curvy, and the other one is kind of almost like a gladius, but longer vibe. Anyway.
Right.
But yeah, we did it. We saved the day. But guess what? That treasure bag that Benny had, guess what? Benny's been getting treasure, putting it on camels, trying to get more. He hangs it on the wrong stick and triggers all the traps at once. And now we got to escape the Cave of Wonders situation.
Yeah, the ceiling is coming down. Yeah.
Yes, but Rick is not going to just be like, all right, fuck you, Benny. He does get a come on.
Him,
and Benny just won't give up his big sack and gets dragged down.
Benny.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great effects, though, these sequences of them running, Indiana Jones again, crush traps, this and that. I love seeing Benny dragging the bag with gold cups falling out of it, like behind it. Like, there's some very funny visuals here. But Benny doesn't make it. I've often
thought in video games and life and these movies that do these things where you defeat these final bosses and then your final task is escape, that I would not make it to the escape part. I would be so gassed from the boss fight that truly the minute things started tumbling, I would just like curl up and be like, all right. It is what it is.
The world's
what
safe.
am I going to do? Exactly. I feel content from that.
I would be trying to take treasure, or in the Last Crusade when that lady is like, can't give up the chalice,
you would die with the cup for sure. But see, in my mind, I would be so convinced. I'd be like, we're in a pyramid. There was like a magic well over there. Or like if you were in the Last Crusade where you're like, Jesus is like 10 feet from me. Like, even if this place is collapsing, I'm pretty sure this place is magic. Like, I'm pretty sure I'll be protected somehow. And then I would die.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh.
What's like Benny, he gets trapped in there. the lights are going out. All of a sudden, these
So
scarabs
scary.
show up. You know, he knows that he's about to die. So that's
Yeah.
a scary scene to be in. You know.
Yeah. He found all the treasure he wanted, but yeah, that was a great sequence of events where the little mirror gets crushed and then it's just his torch and it's like, whoa, like this golden palace, like when the lights go out, it's like visually like, yep, this is your tomb, Benny. And it gets
And he's doing that thing where he's like doing the movement. You see the bugs kind of moving, but there's so many that it's like, Benny,
What
you're
a
not going
way
to be
to
able to
go.
stop. Yeah, what are you doing?
Yep.
No, and I would not want to be just like swarmed by insects to death. That's a
No.
terrible way to go.
No.
Ometep goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we saw that one guy get stripped of his flesh by the bugs that
Yeah.
kind of wash over that one dude who falls down. It's terrifying way to go.
I guess I would cover my ears and mouth, just hoping none of them would get inside. Because if they munched me from outside in, I'd be okay with that. Just
Yeah.
don't go inside.
Yeah, that was the
You'd be
worst
okay with
visual.
that.
But luckily for our heroes, Benny had already loaded up the camels with some gold. So a little.
That's right. So they got a little bit, but I like the
Pay up.
line where like, I guess we're empty-handed again or whatever, and then Brendan Fraser's like, I don't know about that.
Not me.
Girl,
Yeah.
happy ending. Yeah.
Yep,
Love
that's
it.
great.
He was
And,
a prisoner when this started. I love this because
Yeah.
of that. You know,
And then
it's
they're
like,
married in the
ah.
next movie. They stay
Yep.
together. They love each
They jump
other.
ahead like 14 years. They have like a teenage child by that point. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, the riding on the horse, iconic. Little bits that I like just on the escape I wanted to mention is like, she's trying to get the book. They're like, you can't get the book, and then Jonathan wants to get a treasure. They're like, no, they have to go. Both of them have to pull someone away. That
Yeah.
was a fun little gag, but yeah,
That is funny.
it was a great little adventure. They have the
Absolutely.
respect of
Yeah.
Oded Fair, and then he just rides away, and it's like the paladin in D&D. He's like he's just leaving.
See you
He's
next
just
time.
leaving
You
us
did
here.
good. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
well, great.
Hopefully,
Jonathan's
no one
like,
will
he's just
wake up
leaving us
the
here?
Scorpion King anytime soon or anything.
Hopefully
like
Well,
not.
they bring everybody back for that sequel. Literally, the titular mummy that dies in this film gets to come back. Arnold
Mhm.
Vosloo comes back. Oded Fair comes back. Kevin J. O'Connor as Benny does not come back, which is what always
Yeah.
bugged me in those future
Well, he
films. Bring
died,
back
didn't he?
Zombie Benny.
that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, more Benny.
Or just
Be like
introduce a
Jake
new
Johnson.
Benny. Yeah.
It's like only Rick O'Connell sees him. If anything, like
Yeah.
he should get the scorpion thing on him. I don't like that it's the kid that does. I don't like any of that. So
I haven't seen those in a long time, but I do remember thinking, dang, this Oded Fair character is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
Should
cool.
have made a spin-off about him.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing
Still
currently,
good.
but truly, every time he would pop in Resident Evil, my dad would be like, "That's the mummy guy," and we'd be like, "Oh yeah, the mummy
Yeah.
guy."
Like Carlos from my favorite Resident
Yeah.
Evil, Resident Evil Nemesis. Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
sure.
But I guess that's a wrap, shall we say, on the mummy plot, and we can go head on over to final thoughts on this classic film.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we are sealing up the tomb. We're done treasure hunting. We're putting it all away.
That was a mistake.
It was a curse. It was
I'm
a terrible
sorry.
mistake, Mike.
Belongs in a
Yep.
museum.
We said that we've done a bunch of treasure things on this at the top of the episode. When
Yeah.
we did our Uncharted episode, we were like, "Oh, we love talking about this genre." We've
Yeah.
done a bunch of these at this
Yeah.
point. I love every time we do get to talk about one of these wild adventure films.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll just say right now, like, we need to do National Treasure at some point. Like, I've been thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's going to happen in the future.
This movie is a national treasure, but I also like the national treasure like a lot.
Well, who's better? I mean, Brendan Fraser or Nick Cage? I mean,
Okay,
that's a win-win situation.
the Marvel universe, I'm done with it. I don't care anymore.
Oh, okay.
Give me a film where the multiverse portal opens up and it's Jack Sparrow, Rick O'Connell, Benjamin Gates. Is that what Nicolas Cage's
I think
character's
so.
That's
name
right.
is?
Benjamin Franklin
Wow.
Gates.
Lara Croft.
And,
both
Indiana
of them.
Jones.
And Nathan
Yeah,
Drake.
Indiana Jones. We have to steal, the
Nate.
treasure of the multiverse. And you're like, oh my God, what a crew you've assembled.
You son of a bitch! I'm in an Ant-Man and Ant-Man.
Yeah,
Put 'em together.
and Benny.
He's like, because he's a thief. Yeah, and Benny's in this universe, but he's
Yeah.
not too terrible.
Benny was a
Um,
good guy in this universe.
You get
That's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
part of
Holland
the
as,
plot.
Nathan Drake, obviously.
Hmm
Well,
Everyone's favorite.
So
Nathan Fillion comes in and kills him, and he's like, "I'm the real Nathan Drake. That guy replaced me 10 years ago."
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh my God."
As long as Sully's not there or his cat.
Yeah.
So
Cat, God.
I think I want to mention real quick the second Uncharted game escalates to where you fight Yetis, and then I saw the Dragon Emperor, and I'm like, did they just do the Uncharted 2 plot? Anyway, you'll see it when you watch the movie. But there's Yetis in
Incredible.
Dragon Emperor.
Love it.
But for this one, it was super
here's
fun.
why this film works, Mike. It doesn't involve a scene at a Papa John's.
Oh yeah,
It should though. It should have a Papa John's.
The first one ever.
Not
Yeah,
enough product placement in this movie. That's the problem. with it.
yeah, it's true. But yeah, great adventure film. I like it a lot. Classic. Great reactions, great chemistry with the cast. We set it up top. I enjoyed this little mummy adventure, impromptu after
Absolutely.
the escape room. But I'm glad we did it. This little excursion. Yeah.
Yeah. And just by coincidence, like I said, I watched the new Mummy
Mm-hmm.
like 2 weeks ago, so I can really compare that piece of shit movie with this
Right.
classic, 90s blockbuster. And again, like it just feels like an era of blockbusters that they don't really make anymore. And I know we just did
Yeah.
Uncharted, that's a recent movie, and they made Dial of Destiny and everything, but it just seems like the blockbuster space is just so dominated by comic book movies, right? Superheroes, that we don't get
Yeah.
these sweeping adventure movies anymore.
Or
So-
also they don't do practical sets. Like it's still like
Yeah.
they spend too much. It's a different feel.
Yeah.
Well, what is the future of the adventure genre, or I guess even just applying to this? Because you keep bringing up the Tom Cruise Mummy, failed the Dark Universe. They literally said that was so bad, we're not continuing this stuff.
Shame. Such a
Um,
shame.
But again, that is that is an action adventure movie. It seems like, right? So what?
Kind of. It starts in like Iraq, but then like they go back to America like pretty quickly, and then it's mostly based in America because they bring the mummy tomb back to America, and then she wakes up. So it's more of a monster movie than an adventure, really.
Right.
Well, with our birthday boy's resurgence, there has been a lot of talk of, okay, do they go back and do Mummy 4 now? Would he have another Rick O'Connell in him? I don't think he does body-wise.
Yeah, body
No.
type. He's so different now. I don't know if.
But does he?
would just
But
be
does he
fat.
become the Sean Connery, Jacob, to whoever's the,
Well, who played
who's
the
the
kid
indie?
in Dragon Tomb? Right.
He's a nobody. He has
nobody?
gone on to do
They could
nothing.
recast
It's
him.
one of the worst performances in a film. He is the guy that they choose is so bad, and his name is like Jack Racer or something. Mike, what is it?
It looks like Luke Ford as Alex O'Connell.
Sure,
So we need a new Alex
absolutely.
O'Connell.
Sure, bring Luke
Yes.
Ford back or recast that role. Get a Garrett Hedlund or whatever.
But our young generation I love Michael B. Jordan because he straight up just calls his shots where he's like, I want to play Morpheus' son in a movie, and yeah, that didn't work, but he's like, these are the movies I grew up
I
on.
want to
Or he's
play
like,
Apollo Creed's son.
I want to play Paul Creed's son. He's now about to play Will Smith's I Am Legend's son in a new movie where he's like, why
Right.
aren't we making more of these? Who is the actor now who grew up and was like, I love 1999's The Mummies, who needs to say like, Brendan, it's me, Timothy Chalamet. You and me, man. Like, I would love to, play your grandson at this point. Like,
Damn.
it's like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
Why isn't that there? What will
I
the
feel
future
like,
be?
the third movie was a bomb, so maybe that's why
Huge
they
bomb.
don't go back to it. Right?
But so does Universal never make a Mummy movie again then, Jacob? If we're
feel like
following
they have
two
to.
bombed Mummy movies?
Bring back the Dark Universe first of all. I mean, do you remember who
No.
they had cast? They had
Angelina Jolie
Johnny
is
Depp.
Bride of
Johnny Depp.
Frankenstein.
Guy
Yeah,
we
Benicio
talk about too
del
much
Toro, I
as it is.
think.
Yeah.
They had all these people lined up, and it was going to be great. Russell Crowe,
Yeah. Well, I don't think they can go. They rebooted it essentially with Tom Cruise. Like they redid the franchise for Dark Universe. I don't know if you can go back to Jack O'Connell world.
Yeah.
Like, hey, sorry
they
guys.
have the rights to these classic.
It's just strange
monsters.
to do that sequentially.
Yeah.
I've never seen that
Mike,
done before.
you have not seen the Tom Cruise one?
No, and I have not.
Can I give you a spoiler that, Jacob, you must know now from watching as well?
Mm.
The Book of the Dead is in that film. It does take place in, I guess you could call it's the exact same book.
So they
like I
find
said,
a
it's
mummy
this
with the
very
same
similar
backstory and
plot.
same name.
It's just gender flipped. Like you see the
Right.
beginning. Basically she was the princess and she kills her
Right.
dad because her dad has a son because she's in line to inherit
Oh,
the throne.
geez.
Her dad is a
You
son.
know how it
she's
is.
Like,
You know how it is.
No, I get it. It's
Girl power, we gotta
it's the
kill my
Mummy
dad.
multiverse where we get Tom Cruise to understudy with Brendan Fraser. He's like, wait, you have mummies in your world too? Crazy. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's it.
Essentially, yeah, Tom Cruise dies at the first act of that movie and becomes like an immortal servant of the mummy. So I would have been interesting to see where they go with the sequel to that, because he's trying to like not be like, he doesn't want to be like a thrall to the mummy, but he's kind of forced to be. Interesting ideas, but not very well executed, unfortunately.
He's the Benny.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to find whoever has the passion for these to just start over. Just, I mean, if you
But
want.
is that what you wouldn't want this continued at this point, Mike? You just
I don't
want-
think you have to really.
I think you have a good idea there, Colin. Do like a Last Crusade where Brendan Fraser is the Sean Connery role. Get a young 20-something to be his son, and do a classic father-son type thing.
They'd be like 30, sort of, if they were like 15 in the second one. And
I don't understand
in their
how
20s.
the second Rachel Wise drops out. You don't just lean into that, Jacob. Like the fact that they even were like, we need to recast it. And in fact, the role is
Right.
just as big, and she's like more action oriented. You're like, no, like
Yeah, it's
no.
the same character. I don't know. And Jonathan is still in it, right?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's not a great role for him either.
But anyways, what would they even do? Because they've done Egyptian mummies, they've done Chinese mummies, right?
The tag at the end of big spoiler for Dragon Emperor, I guess. They win the day and they say, well, we're all going to go on vacation. And they all say, well, let's go somewhere with no mummies. How about Peru? And they all like laugh and start driving off. And a chyron comes up that says 3 months later, mummies were discovered in Peru. So I think the setup was that they were, I believe, in fact, it was greenlit to have Aztec zombies that were going to be played by Antonio Banderas, or Aztec mummies. So I think they were going to take like an international after the Jet Li Chinese mummy thing they tried to do. It all sounds bad.
The franchise is called The Mummy. I mean, how many different mummies can we find, you know?
But it can't always be Arnold Vosloo. Like I'm not even positive I like the Mummy Return in
I don't like that idea.
Well, I like the idea of doing the Chinese one because they have the clay soldiers or whatever. I'm sure that's a part of the movie.
That's factored into it.
I knew about that from history and stuff, that like they would be buried with these armies of clay soldiers that could come back to life or whatever in the afterlife.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool idea.
Should we say real quick, is it worth mentioning the second film maybe has the most notorious shot in recent film history, the reveal of the Scorpion King?
Yes, one of the most criticized CG moments ever. It's like the worst CGs,
Yes. It was billed as, you're not going to believe it, we've recreated a human being completely. And then I remember when it was revealed going like, oh, wow.
This does not look good. Yeah, so it's a half scorpion, half man. The man half is
who is
Rock.
the man, Mike?
It's The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. His first
it's
appearance
Dwayne The
in
Rock
film.
Johnson, my friend. It is first film role, yes.
But he had been on Star Trek before.
Yes, that's right.
True. Voyager. And did you know they made 2 direct-to-DVD sequels to the Scorpion King?
We should maybe...
Oh, he got his spin-off movie.
Yeah, well, there's the Scorpion King spinoff, and then there's 2 direct-to-DVD sequels to that spinoff. So there's
we're going to talk about
King
what
movies.
we're going to do at our next long-form series after Pirates. I'm maybe going to be leaning pretty hard to do the Mummies again, because I wouldn't mind ending it with the first Scorpion King movie with The Rock, which is so crazy. Yes,
the Scorpion King, the third Scorpion King movie, which was direct to DVD, had like an insane cast. I was reading it has like Dave Bautista, before he became a star.
Sure. And it goes
Ron
pretty. It's like
Perlman.
Randy Couture. It's like pretty MMA
Randy Couture is in
heavy
the
and
second
stuff.
one.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
But the Rock does not come back. It's a different actor for each one. Playing the Scorpion King. So
that's
could be interesting though. Could be.
I have beef with the Scorpion King because the marketing, it was heavily marketed with the I Stand Alone song, right?
Yes.
And then the third act, I'm waiting the whole movie for the song to come in, and it's the final fight. I'm like, okay, for the final fight, they'll do it. No. But then there's a moment where he lights his swords on fire. I'm like, this is when they're going to use it. And they don't. And then the credits hit and they didn't even put it in the credits. And I'm like, I'm so mad that they didn't
it's
play
just
I
on the
Stand Alone.
soundtrack?
It was just for the marketing.
Oh.
It's probably on the soundtrack, but I was like, you should have played
I
it when he
am,
lights his sword on fire. But
So I'm looking up. I was wrong. There's not 2 sequels to the Scorpion King. There's 4. There are 5 total Scorpion King spin-off movies.
I've never seen any of the other Scorpion Kings other than the first one. I have the first one on digital, and I might have the Blu-ray of that film and not the
Can I
Mummy.
tell you? Let me just read some of the. So
I like
in
that
the
he wins
third
by
movie-
bow and arrowing just a little bit harder.
I like
Scorpion-
that Maggie Hugh, who is it?
Oh yeah.
Who
I
do
don't
you
know,
remember
can I
who
tell
the
you
actress? Yes,
some of the
sorry, Kelly
cast
Who.
Of Scorpion King 3: The Battle for Redemption has Tamara Morrison,
Oh wow.
Dave Bautista, Billy Zane, Ron Perlman, Kimbo
Oh.
Slice.
Whoa.
Kimbo Slice?
Yeah, what a
Whoa.
random. And then the 4th movie has Michael Biehn, Rutger Hauer, Lou Ferrigno. Like
So
these
that's
are
where like
insane.
made for TV action stars go to
Yeah.
die. It's like the
Basically,
Scorpion King
yeah.
films. Okay.
And the second one has Randy Couture. Yeah, we might have to look into those at some point.
Well,
That sounds painful. Don't open
yeah,
the
maybe.
tomb. It's cursed. Why would we do
No.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
No, it could be.
cursed.
But just the fact that there's more Scorpion King movies than there are like mainline Mummy movies is very strange to me.
Well, and here's the
Good
thing:
point.
Steven Sommers, I believe, gets a producer credit on that first one. Keeps making money. Got producer. He does not direct Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Obviously, he gets replaced by the Fast and the Furious
Rob
guy.
Cohen, yeah.
Rob Cohen. Thank you.
Not a very good
Yes.
director. Triple X and Fast and
The
Furious,
worst. But
Jeez.
Steve Sommers ends up in director jail not because of Van Helsing, but because of what's that movie called? Odd Todd or Odd Norman or whatever that stars Anton Yelchin. It's maybe his last film. Our
Odd
beloved
Thomas.
Anton Yelchin. Odd Thomas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He did.
And I don't understand it.
G.I.
It's
Joe,
a
of
fine
course.
movie.
Yeah.
Jacob. Okay, here's what I want to say. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
He does the first G.I. Joe film, G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. Okay, yes, not Retaliation.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, have either of you guys seen those films? That film in particular?
Yes. We've
Yeah.
talked
Okay.
about these before, I think. Joe
Well,
loves these movies, of course.
Here's something we should have Joe on to talk about this moment in particular, because Joe, who loves this franchise in particular, loves Brendan Fraser, former host of this podcast, who is stuck in quicksand, and that's why he's not here.
Yep.
Has pointed out and said since the first time he saw that movie, Brendan Fraser cameos in that film where he rides up on a quad while the Channing Tatum is being trained to be a G.I. Joe, and he says the lines, "Are they Joes or Noes?" And somebody says, "They're Noes," and he goes, "They look like Joes to me," or something like that. Now he says later, they're like, whatever character he is, he's like Sergeant Stone or something. He's like, I always kind of saw it as that's Rick O'Connell's great grandson. So I fucking love that.
There's a whole canon.
We've already got G.I. Joe and Transformers existing in the same universe.
That's right. Let's bring the Mummy in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. And that gets us connected to Sully and Nathan Drake as well. So let's get it all.
There's 3 G.I. Joe films if you count Snake Eyes. We should maybe talk about the G.I. Joe films at some point.
Yeah. The first one's got, Christopher Eccleston as a Doctor Who super fan now. Christopher Eccleston as Destro, of course. And
buddy.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
You know who the villain is? Arnold Vosloo.
Oh, sure.
Plays Zartan, the shapeshifter.
That's right. Wow.
And Kevin J. O'Connor is in it. Dr.
Yes, he plays Dr. Mindbender. Yes.
Whoa,
now,
what a reunion.
And JGL, of course, as Cobra Commander. Very silly portrayal of that. But
Marlon Wayans.
Watch Deep Rising. I love Steven Sommer movies. Watch Deep Rising. Watch G.I. Joe. Watch both these Mummy films. Watch Van Helsing. I've soured on it a little.
Wolverine fighting monsters.
I wonder how that one holds up. Yeah,
it's
I'm here for it.
Oh, Hugh, I don't know.
Huge jacked man.
A huge jacked man.
He is. That's what I'm taking away. Here's what I want to say about this film.
Yes.
I was on vacation like 2 years ago, and this has happened a couple times with 2 films specifically, where me and my brother and my dad will be together in a hotel room, and we're about to do something, and we're like, "Oh, the Mummy's on." And we'll sit down and like be stuck, even though we're on vacation doing other things. That is the power of this film. And the only other time it happened was Naked Gun was on TV, and we're like, "Oh, Naked Gun."
This happened to me too, Colin. This is very strange. I was on a family vacation. We were in a hotel, and me and my sister just were flipping channels, and the Mummy Returns comes on, the sequel. And we just started watching that. We're like, you know what? we like this movie.
Yeah.
It has a
Yeah.
power, and I think that shows you how perfect of a film franchise this is, and a great
Absolutely.
film.
It could keep you in your hotel longer than you wanted to
It's
be.
just one of those movies. I'm flipping channels in a hotel. It comes on. I'm watching. I'm in.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but definitely. Yeah, no, it's a fun ride. Great. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
We didn't even talk about the ride, by the way, which is like
No,
my
I've done it
favorite
before.
ride.
Have you guys done it? Yeah,
Oh,
it's
shoot.
awesome.
Loved it.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
But the ride didn't exist first. This isn't a.
No,
it's not.
Pirates of the
based on-
Caribbean.
no,
the
it's
ride is
inspired by
based
it. And
on
you
the movie.
literally just in like a cylinder. It just goes bloop, like you just like spin, right? Like that's all it
Yeah.
kind of is, right?
Well, it's like a
You're
short
oh.
roller coaster. It lasts about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I've gone to, I live near Universal. I've been there a few times, and I
Huh.
always go on that ride. And because sometimes there's no line, so you can literally just go on the ride, go walk around, get on the ride again. And because it's so
Is
short, yeah,
Gone
Huh.
now?
no, it's still there.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
It's,
I thought
it's
I
a
remembered
classic.
them taking that out. Yes.
It still
yeah,
holds up.
It
It's
is.
got like the air, like you can feel air over your feet. That's supposed to be like the scarabs and stuff,
Oh,
um,
okay, that's fun.
like movement. Yeah, it's
yeah,
cool.
you're looking at like a projection screen too as you're going, right?
There's some multimedia stuff involved. It's a good ride. It's a classic.
Nice.
Check it out, Normies. Go to Universal Studios.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a fun journey doing this. And
Absolutely.
just thanks for watching The Mummy and talking about it with me, guys. I think, yeah.
It's been a blast. I mean, between this and Pirates, we've watched some good classic movies from our childhood, and
Mhm.
not to be, those people, but they just don't make them as good.
No,
Like they
I
used
was
to.
talking to a listener of ours who has children, and he was saying to me, I love your guys' show. I can't do the episodes you guys do right away that are the reactions to the big Marvel movies or the whatever. I wish, like when you guys had COVID, you would do some occasional throwbacks.
Yeah.
I was happy to squeeze one of these in. Like you said, I mean, these
Yeah.
are the movies we loved, and you watch them and you go like, fuck, they don't make them like this anymore. Even if they're in name, remaking them over and over and over, it's not the same thing.
No. Even diminishing returns on some of the sequels. Like the first entries, they're just so good and classic, right? So it's nice to have that.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, and thank you for listening to the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We
that's
love our
been a bunch
Normies.
yeah. I gotta
Yeah,
get my
shout out Rob.
Yes. But they're
Well-
gonna cut out our tongues, I guess, if we don't wrap this
Yeah,
thing
they're gonna
up.
pull our brains out our noses.
Oh,
We
geez.
gotta
I
wrap
really
this
hate
up.
that. I hate
Wrap it
Yeah.
up
all
like a
this.
mummy.
But
Nope.
Normies, please don't do any of that to us. But if you have to, you can find all of our little jars at normies_like_us. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast there. Helps us out a lot. Check out our YouTube page as well, where you can watch us have these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Otherwise, we have been your hosts. This is Cursed Colin. That's what I'm going to say.
This is just Mike Hotep again.
And this is Jaco Cobnell. Thanks,
Signing
Normies.
off. Thanks,
All right.
Normies.
Time to hang Jaco Copnell.
Yeah. Oh my
Get in
gosh.
there.
About
Mummy
prisoner.
Christmas. Happy holidays coming up, Normies.
Yeah. Mummy Christmas to you.
Yeah, Mummy Christmas.
To
Or
all
what
a good bite.
bite. And then whatever other holiday
Sure.
you would celebrate based on the necklaces that Benny had. All are welcome. Take care,
That's right.
Normies.
Bye.